I want to get to our special guest who thankfully took a little time. We only set this up 15 minutes before today's show. I think we've got Florida Governor Ron DeSantis on the line. Governor, how are you?
I'm good. How's it going?
Well, I wish I could say it's going great because, as you know, we have a rule around here. If there's anyone besides you that never complains about Florida, it's Dave Rubin. But Governor, I first want to show you a 5-second video. I don't know if you've seen this yet, but this is from South Miami. A friend of mine took this yesterday. Let's just throw to it real quick. And these are, it looks like a couple dozen Chinese migrants that were arrested, found in a truck. This is just yesterday. This is to the backdrop of 2 weeks ago. I'm sure you know the other story where about 31 Chinese migrants were found in a U-Haul in virtually the exact same area. And this will connect us to the fight that you are in right now. I want to start by reading a tweet that you put out this morning. Legislative leaders wrote a weak immigration bill that vests enforcement in the Commission of Agriculture, which creates a conflict of interest given the agriculture industry's affinity for cheap illegal foreign labor. It is also the case that the current commissioner, Wilton Simpson, has voted to give driver's licenses and in-state tuition to illegals. He even refused to oppose allowing illegals to practice law in Florida. Do we want the fox guarding the hen house? Here is the rundown of differences between a strong immigration response, our proposals, and the watered-down smoke and mirrors bill championed by Florida legislative leaders. So we will show, Governor, we've got it up right now, this side-by-side comparison, and we'll dive into some of those specifics in a moment. But this seems like completely insane to me, and not the Florida that I know, that you would be in a fight, particularly over immigration, with the legislature. Can you lay out how this thing started?
Yeah, I mean, Dave, Donald Trump ran on this issue. He won a mandate on this issue. And so when that happened, we recognized the obvious, that whatever he does federally with ICE and Border Patrol is great. But the reality is that is not going to even scratch the surface if you don't have states and localities cooperating and assisting, because most of the interactions you would have with illegals are going to be at the local level or the state level. And so we saw immediately that we had a role to play. We've been working with folks first in their transition, now in the White House. And what I called for a couple weeks ago was a special session 1 week after President Trump was inaugurated, which was yesterday, to get Florida on the same page, require all our cities and counties and state to work collaboratively and help facilitate this mission. And the legislative leaders at the time opposed it. They said that it was premature, that it could wait a few months, and that they didn't want to do it. Well, they got blowback from their constituents. So they came in yesterday and they said, well, we're not going to do the governor's proposals, but we've got proposals, which basically guts everything you need for this to actually work. And if you're not having local and state assisting, then this isn't going to work. And so they not only gut it, but then the existing authority we have, they transfer to the Commissioner of Agriculture, which makes no sense whatsoever. So things like E-Verify, we have mandatory private sector E-Verify. That's done by the governor executive. They would move that to the Commissioner of Agriculture. So it would actually be less enforcement than what we have right now. I've got National Guard and Highway Patrol working with the Trump administration and ICE right now. And I'm happy to direct those efforts. I obviously need a package to be able to do more and to fully do this. But here's the thing, Dave. You run the last 4 years, every Republican around the country, but certainly in Florida, bashed Biden's border policies, bashed his immigration policies, said we needed to get strong. We did a lot of stuff in Florida that's been good, but without a federal partner, it wasn't going to be as effective. Now we have an opportunity to make good on the campaign rhetoric. I put a series of proposals that basically does what we told the voters we would do, would actually work to end the illegal immigration crisis in this country, working hand in hand with the Trump administration. They didn't want to do a bill at all. They did this half-cocked bill, which guts enforcement. They named it the Trump Act because they think if they call it that, then people will think, oh, it must be strong. But it's a very weak bill, and I think it's a misnomer, just like the Affordable Care Act was a misnomer and the Inflation Reduction Act was a misnomer. So we've got to get this right. This is really, I think, a generational opportunity with President Trump taking office. He came in with a head of steam. He issued the right policy for executive orders, So, for example, Dave, you look at some of his executive orders, that he wants to deputize local police and sheriff's deputies and state law enforcement to actually enforce immigration law. So you're down in South Florida, if a boat of illegal Haitians shows up, you could have the sheriff's deputies have the ICE authority and they could send them back to Haiti immediately. We're not allowed to do that under the Biden administration. We need to have everyone on board to be able to do it. I do think they're going to use Guantanamo Bay for a illegal alien processing site, and then they'll repatriate from their home country for there. What better state to take advantage of that than the state of Florida? And so we work closely with their administration. I talked to the president yesterday. He said he's not in the weeds on these legislative debates. He was supportive of what I did, calling for this. And he said, Ron, I just want it to be as strong as possible. Well, clearly what the leaders of the legislature are doing is gutting it. They're not making it as strong as possible.
So the reason this is enraging me so much is not only because I'm a Floridian and I care about my state and my people here and everything else, but also I think Florida now represents America that can be run properly. And as you alluded to, I mean, the federal government, Trump needs some help from the governors to do some of this stuff. I mean, what is going on with the Florida legislature? For people that don't understand, I mean, the Republicans have a supermajority. You would think they'd be walking lockstep with you. Is this really as simple as they want cheap labor to get our fruits and vegetables?
I think that's certainly part of it. But I think the thing is the members of the legislature showed up yesterday morning for the special session. They didn't know what they were going to vote on. The leadership did not tell them. And so they kind of dropped this bill on their heads. And I think a lot of these rank and file legislators, I don't think that's the policy they think is the right thing, but I think they're being pushed by the leaders that if you don't vote for this stuff, then they're going to take away your parking space or committee assignments, or they're not going to do your bills and all this stuff. So there's retribution that they can use against people, but this was not something that was bottom up. This was drafted by a handful of leaders in the Florida legislature and then airdropped on top of the members. So I do think a lot of members who campaigned being tough, I think most of them would vote for the proposals that we came up with, but I think they're really being pushed. So this is leadership driven. And the one thing I found, Dave, in dealing with this is if you just do what you promise people you do, everything works out. But if you're being pushed by the leadership to violate the principles you ran on or your promises, ultimately, maybe you save a committee assignment, maybe you get a bill heard, but ultimately it just doesn't work out. And so just do what you said you'd do. Let's solve the problem once and for all. And if you think about what they've done since Donald Trump's come in office, we've seen some of the ICE activity, but they're averaging probably 700 to 1,000 arrests a day. And if you extrapolate that out, that's 365,000 a year. And I think they'll ramp it up more. But Biden let in 10 million all by his lonesome.
Right.
So if you don't have local and state assisting, you are not going to be able to do what needs to be done. And one of the things the legislature did in the bill, they created a big slush fund to house and feed illegals. And I'm thinking, I don't want to house them. I want to deport them.
Right.
Why are you housing them? So it's just a difference. I think it's a difference in values. They initially said it was a difference in timing, but I think the product that they've done just shows there's a difference in values. The secret is, prior to me becoming governor, Florida was weak on illegal immigration. I mean, the legislature voted to give driver's license to illegals, in-state tuition, all these different things. I came in, we banned sanctuary cities. We did things like mandatory E-Verify. We've cracked down on some of the healthcare costs and whatever we had in our power, I did. Obviously, I sent troops to the southern border. We sent illegals to places like Martha's Vineyard. So we've done a lot on the issue. But I think what you're seeing with the legislative product, that's kind of the old muscle memory of how they used to handle these things. And I think their view is they don't truly want robust immigration enforcement.
So what levers do you have here? I mean, where does this fight go? Again, I've got 10 Floridians in here that all voted for you, all support you. I don't know anyone that's supporting the other side of this thing. I do understand their considerations, but what levers do you have to fight them right now?
I think a lot of it is just, I'm using my platform to just educate people on what's at stake. You mentioned we have that one pager where our proposals are laid out versus the legislature's. And there's no way you can read that one sheet and think that theirs are better than ours if you believe in immigration enforcement and you want the Trump mandate to be fulfilled. So I think it's just letting people know kind of what's going on here. I can tell you this, Dave, they just unveiled the bill yesterday at like 10, 11 a.m. I have not seen a situation in Florida where our grassroots were as angry with the legislature as they were yesterday. I mean, this is
I think
organic.
It's partly because people are shocked.
I think some of the legislature just, you had the ACLU praising Republican leaders. You had Florida Democratic Party praising them. There was literally a state senator doing a high five with some of these Republican leaders yesterday. Think about this, Dave. When we banned sanctuary cities, there were no Democrats high-fiving. When we eliminated DE&I a couple years ago, there were no Democrats high-fiving. When we nuked gender ideology, those Democrats were not high-fiving. So when we've done the things that have made Florida successful, the Democrats have fought us tooth and nail, and especially on the immigration issue, where the Democrats have been horrible for years. Do you honestly think what the legislature is doing is good if they're getting high fives and attaboys from liberal Democratic state senators in the Florida legislature? Of course not. So people just need to know what the stakes are. Let your House and Senate members know where you stand and what you want to see them do. But ultimately, these folks respond to the people that elected them. I mean, that's all it is. And if they want to take bad votes and stand by it, they will. But I will tell you this. Any Republican primary, this immigration issue is the most animating issue. And if we go down a year and a half where Florida could have done a lot more, but the legislature was blocking, man, there's going to be some challengers. They're going to have some really potent issues to be able to use. And so my view is like, let's just do what we said we were going to do. And it's not about me. I don't need pride of ownership. If they can get their product into a situation where it's strong and will actually work, I'll give them 100% of the credit. I just want to solve the problem once and for all. Because yes, you see these Chinese aliens, you see criminal aliens. We just have people that get run over by drunk drivers, get assaulted. These things happen. The schools get crowded. Our medical gets crowded. The illegal doesn't have insurance. All kinds of things that have negative impacts on our community. And Donald Trump's come into office with a full head of steam, and we owe it to have all hands on deck so that we do. And if Florida does the right thing and steps up, other states are going to follow, and it'll be a force multiplier in terms of what they're able to do for the deportations.
Well, Gov, I've never seen you step down from a fight, so I have no doubt that you will not step down from this one. And again, it's not just, there's a selfish version of I want my community and my family to be as safe as possible, but I also think this is now what this represents for America, because if Florida can't do this right, then I don't know what other states have. Let me just ask you one other thing, because I know you got to go. It's a slight sidebar, but it's been a little chilly here in Florida, and there have been iguanas falling out of the sky. Do you, as the governor, have any specific recommendations on how people will not be hit in the head with iguanas?
You guys aren't getting it as bad. Last week, we had record snowfall in northern Florida. So the previous record had been 4 inches. We got 10 inches of snow in Milton, Florida, and northwest Florida. You saw the beaches of Pensacola, some of these areas off 38, totally covered in snow. And that's kind of like a once in a lifetime, maybe once in 2 lifetimes opportunity to be able to do it. So yes, it was unseasonably cold. Where is global warming when you need it, right? I mean, we still are a great place to visit in the winter. So we had a little bit of a hiccup. The weather's better now. And I think you're going to continue to get more mild as the days and weeks come.
Governor, I thank you for your time, and we'll stay in this fight with you. And obviously, welcome back anytime.
Okay, thanks, Dave. Take care.